on Sports Talk Today, the team. I'm your host, Danny Thompson, checking in tonight with my main man, Paul Myers.
Yo.
And Marc Johnson.
What up?
Of NBAFCPradio.com. We also want you to check in with us as well, too. 407-482-3776. Check us out on the TuneIn app as well as on live stream. As you can see me and Paul in the studio as well, too. Guys, like I said, we went to break talking about DeMarcus Cousins and, Marc's favorite thing about him throwing the ball off of Chris Paul, which is probably one of the more funnier moments of the week. But as we were talking about in the show pre-show, guys, Kyrie Irving's supposed unhappiness in the team on a contending team, and me and Paul were talking about this on the break. Kyrie, for me, if he wants to be traded, it would mean just about this, whatever the report is,
Asterisk.
Yeah. Would it mean the same, Marc, for you, if it was Damian Lillard in Portland or Anthony Davis in New Orleans asking for the same type of problems that he's having? Will we have this much media coverage on guys like Damian Lillard or, let's just say, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, or those type of guys? Would it be the same type of media coverage?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Anytime you play, with LeBron or on the team, with LeBron,
I'm
it's just going to get, a lot of coverage. I mean, even the guys, even like Dellavedova, he's, the 10th man or whatever, he would get a lot of coverage, if his same scenario surrounded him. So it's just, the nature of the beast.
I agree.
You play with LeBron,
100%.
you play on his team, this is what comes with it.
I was telling Danny the same thing, Marc. See, this is the thing. Danny gets off on these he loves to make debate situations. Listen, man, the Cavaliers are the number one team in the East. Mm-hmm. All right, they're a contender, probably the only contender in the East, legitimate. I understand Toronto. I don't really want to revisit that. Cleveland is probably the only legitimate contender in the East. All right, so with that said, if they're having turmoil in the middle of the season, it's a huge story, especially if LeBron James is involved. So, because people love talking about LeBron, good or bad, they love talking about him. So, no, with Boogie Cousins wanting out, it's okay. Boogie Cousins wants to go. Okay, hypothetically, where can we see him going? That's where those conversations lead. Mm-hmm. Not what is going on with Cleveland. Are they still a contender? Can they pull this off? What's up with the chemistry? Why isn't LeBron being a leader? Oh, I have dozens of hypothetical, newsworthy headlines right there, that you can just throw out. There's so many questions that can be asked right now because of a quote-unquote false report. Mm-hmm. Kyrie said that wasn't true. So it's a false report at this point. There's no evidence to show that he even told Stephen A. Smith that he was unhappy or told anyone that he was unhappy. So as of right now, it's really just a whole lot of drama being built up, and it's not really fair to that locker room, quite honestly. But, I mean, it's what happens when you have LeBron on your team. It's
crazy. And, Marc, I want you to answer this one. It's crazy how this report comes out after the trade deadline. Can you imagine if this report would have came out, 2 weeks ago as we had going into the All-Star game, the week before the trade deadline? Do you think this story has much more traction, or do you think it's still exactly the same, or it's just what it is?
I still think it would be the same because I think, GMs and front office people kind of know, who's on the block and who's not. Of course, they'll call and ask about players who aren't on the block, but it's not like a frenzy like, oh, let's call Cleveland, And then, Cleveland's general manager or LeBron gets about 30 or 40 phone calls from front office people. I don't think it's like that. I think it's a story. Kyrie said it wasn't true, so I'm going to go with the person in the middle of the story who said it wasn't true.
Right.
If it was true, maybe somebody in his camp or somebody, would, be on the show and like, no, Kyrie, that's my man. He didn't told me that. I understand. But that didn't happen, and it's just kind of, your word versus his. So I'll go with what Kyrie's saying. Kyrie's saying that it's not true, and I'm not saying that it's not any unhappiness or any unpleasantness. I mean, you can watch any of the Cleveland games, and you can see frustration on some of those guys' faces, particularly when they're playing in a big game or a team, they're playing an equal match team, and they lose. You can just kind of see, the frustration, on their faces. So,
all right, so
I can see where somebody could draw that conclusion.
All right, so Marc, Danny, question here then, right? Mm-hmm. This is the second time this season because we'll consider the precursor summer to be part of this season. Mm-hmm. This is the second time this season that Stephen A. Smith has gotten made a false report from a prominent player. If you remember, he had the same issue with Kevin Durant. So, with that said, does that make you less likely to believe Stephen A. Smith now?
For me, it's all about when the report comes out. Like, for me, if it's July, knowing that Kevin Durant's a free agent, then I might be more inclined to take it. But you're looking like the beginning of the season where he's still under contract, and, guys cannot sit here and say, oh, I want to leave when you're under contract, or that's considered tampering in most cases. Then it's become less a reputable report. Like Kyrie Irving right now in the middle of a playoff chase, you're trying to win a championship.
Right.
To say you're unhappy during the same week.
Yeah, but Dan, we're talking about this is twice the same guy has made a claim about a prominent player, and that player has came out and said, no, I don't know what he's talking about. Now, granted, if you're as you're saying, if you're in the middle of a playoff chase, you're not going to admit to say, oh, yeah, I'm unhappy. I understand that. But you also don't have – you don't have to say anything.
But then think about it. If you don't say anything –
it doesn't make you guilty?
Depends on who you ask. I don't
know.
It depends on who you ask. It's like it's the 50-50 split. If you say something, then you're vilified if you say something. If you don't say something, then people think something's up your sleeve.
See, I know this, right? I have a feeling that LeBron is tough on these guys. In the locker room, in practice. I have a feeling he's tough on them. Mm-hmm. And I think he got that from the atmosphere that was in Miami, right?
Okay.
Now, y'all tell me what you think of this. So, Cleveland, and I like these players, but they're a team full of losers. All right?
Okay.
Kyrie doesn't have a history of winning. Kevin Love doesn't have a history of winning. Tristan Thompson. None of these guys have a history of winning. J.R. Smith. Shumpert. None of them.
Okay.
The only guy that has rings, or a prominent guy on that team that has rings, is LeBron. So he knows what it takes, and I don't think these guys understand, and I think that's where the backlash is coming. He's saying, come on, guys, we've got to make sure that we're getting prepped for the playoffs. We need to be running smoother, and they don't like it because they're used to doing their own thing on a bad team.
Mark, what are your thoughts about that?
You know what? I would have to agree. You can just kind of tell, when you watch a Cleveland game, and I would say anybody who's listening right now, watch the next few Cleveland games. If they come on TV, watch. When things aren't going right, it's bad body language from the team. I'm like, I can't make it up. It's just bad body language, right? I'm like, when you're down, you don't see guys kind of cheering when they make a good play, and you don't really see enough of that. And that's why I think it's it's truth to what Paul's saying. It just seems like a team in disarray, and LeBron's trying to get it together, but it's like he's having a hard time reaching this group of players.
Interesting, because
that's just what I think.
As I look down the roster, the only player that actually has gotten to the NBA Finals without LeBron was Richard Jefferson. So,
right.
Paul makes a great point on that one. The rest of the roster has not been winning teams, and you look at, to Mark's point, the body language. You look at the game, I want to say it was the other night against Toronto. LeBron called the team out, and he called basically a team that had any mental toughness. And then he went in Sunday. He didn't play. They got blown out of the building by Washington.
Right.
And then it took a late effort last night
against the Pacers
against a solid Pacers team.
Solid
Eastern Conference team in the Pacers, where they had to have Tristan Thompson pretty much bail him out of the game.
Right.
And they had the referees overturn a three-pointer by Paul George. And so they asked LeBron at the game, what was the team's toughness? He goes, it's getting better. So you're going into the playoffs and you don't have any mental toughness. And to T's guy's point, it's a scary proposition. Maybe the reason why Cleveland can't win. Maybe they are a bunch of losers. Maybe they're a bunch of guys that can never get over the hump. But the question is there anybody in the East that has the mental toughness to overtake LeBron James in Cleveland?
That's the thing. I don't think any of them can. Not in a 7-game series. And look, Kyle Lowry played a heck of a game the other night.
Oh, he did.
He gave them. The effort that he had to put out just for them to squeak out a win. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get that 4 out of 7 games. I don't see it. So that's why I said Cleveland really it's a good thing for them. They have some time to figure this out. Mm-hmm. They really need to get the ball rolling in the right direction, though. This is not a Spurs team, okay? The Spurs. Okay. This is something that I want people to understand when it comes to basketball. You have people that know how to flip a switch, and you have people who don't. You have teams. You have coaches. The Spurs are a different animal than any other team in the NBA. I don't even think the Warriors could do what the Spurs do, and that is coast. They are and when I say coast, these guys have the second best record in the league, and they're still coasting. You don't see them overdoing anything.
No, it's a system.
It's their system. They run it smoothly. They sit players when they need to. Come playoff time, they're going to be even at a higher level. And they know how to do this, and other teams don't. You can't expect to do what they're doing. And the Cavs obviously don't have that switch, which is why they need to get rolling in the right way.
Well, Mark, here's a question for you.
I was going to say, not only do they not have the switch, Cleveland runs the wrong offense.
They do.
This team cannot win with what they're running. They cannot win with what they're running.
What are they running?
Basketball is played inside out.
Yeah,
I mean, ever since the beginning of time, it's played inside out. Even Golden State goes inside to Draymond Green for touches before it comes outside to the Splash Brothers.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Cleveland hasn't figured this out. If they haven't figured this out this late in the year, they're not going to figure it out now.
No, the only thing that I think has looked impressive on offense for them is the pick and roll between Kevin Love and LeBron. That's been a very effective thing on offense for them. Mm-hmm. If they can get the other guys to play off of it better, then it's a start. It's somewhere they need to. That should be their staple of their offense. Kyrie is one of those guys. You say, all right, look, here's the ball. We'll get out of your way. I mean, he doesn't really fit in a traditional offense.
He needs to be ball dominant. He's had the ball in his hands.
Right.
It's surprising, Paul, you mentioned the pick and roll with Love and LeBron. I'm surprised that Kyrie and Kevin Love don't have a better pick and roll together, because Kyrie's such a good shooter.
Yeah.
And Love's such a good shooter, and Kyrie can get to the basket.
Exactly.
Like when Ethan called earlier, about Efrett Payton. Payton can't hit water with a jump shot most nights. Right. But, he can get to the basket, but he can't hit water. Kyrie can do both of those. And so, like to Mark's point, I don't understand why they're not running more pick and roll or it's more effective. Paul mentioned the point of a team full of guys that can't get it done. It seems to me, just looking down real quickly at the rosters in the East, there's only one team that has the playoff pedigree of enough guys in the playoffs to beat Cleveland or have enough experience, and that's the one team that's hurt, and that's the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
I mean, with Chris Bosh, if they have a healthy Chris Bosh, you go up and down that roster. There are playoff tested and battle tested and championship winning guys on this roster.
And they're supposed to add Joe Johnson as well.
They have Joe Johnson.
Officially?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know he said that he's going to, but I don't think he's put pen to paper yet. I could be wrong.
We'll look that up when we go to break. But Mark, outside of Miami, look at the roster. Just off the top of your head, is there anybody in the Eastern Conference that has a playoff pedigree that is better than Cleveland, other than Miami?
No. And to be honest with you, even with Miami, if you get Whiteside in foul trouble, they're in trouble. And that's even with Chris Bosh. Like if you get him out the game, they're a different team. So.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's a great concept, a great thought to think about that. We want everybody to call in and talk about this. 407-482-3776, number to call in. When we get back, we'll get to our favorite segment of the show, Mark Johnson's college basketball segment. So we're getting close to March. Next week, conference tournament start, and you want to know who to look out for? Mark Johnson will tell you. We're right back for Full Court Press Radio, sponsored by SOFOELLC on Sports Talk Today, the team. This is Danny Thompson, right back after this break.
Shirts Just For You is a unique custom graphic apparel store. Our motto is made for you, inspired by you. We offer a variety of designs ready for purchase, or you can create your own at no additional cost. With spring just around the corner, they would like to get you prepared, whether just for yourself or for your big event, like a family reunion, bachelor or bachelorette party, or even a work function. When you buy 4 shirts, get the 5th free using the code NBA FCP Radio. Buy 4, get more at checkout.
Are you looking to expand your reach and following in all platforms of media? Do you need a jump start in expanding your brand to all markets across the world? SOFO is here for you. SOFO means something for everyone, and they are here to help you expand your business through all platforms of media. Their experienced team is here for you to expand your brand and put you and your business in places that you would have never been before. Check them out at www.sofoellc.com or call 407-607-9862. Follow SOFOELLC on Instagram and Twitter.
Welcome to Late Night Parents. I'm your host, Ted Hicks. We have a weekly podcast where we sit down and talk with game changers in the sports, technology, education fields. We even do product reviews and giveaways. Why, you ask? Because we're all parents. So if you're ready for an up-close and personal look, then you can